Your feet are trying to warn you. Maybe it starts in a doorway. You're walking just fine, and then your feet suddenly stop. It is not pain. It is not weakness. It is as if the floor turned into glue and your legs forgot what to do next. Maybe it lasts 1 second. Maybe it lasts 5. Maybe your upper body keeps going while your feet stay planted and you catch yourself on the wall before you fall. And you tell yourself it was nothing. Just a strange moment. Just a bad step. But it was not nothing. That moment has a name, and it is one of the most dangerous and most misunderstood signs in Parkinson's disease. Welcome back to Beyond Parkinson. I am James, and today we are going to talk about freezing of gait, the Parkinson sign that can turn a simple walk across your kitchen into a fall that changes everything. I want to show you why your feet freeze, where it happens most often, what your brain is actually doing in that moment, and the practical strategies you can discuss with your doctor or therapist to reduce the risk before the next freeze catches you off guard. Stay with me through the whole video because the last part includes a simple technique many people have never tried, and it may be the one that helps you the most. Let me start with what freezing of gait actually feels like from the inside, because this is something most medical explanations get wrong. They describe it as an inability to initiate or continue walking, and that is technically true, but it does not capture what it feels like to the person standing in that doorway, gripping the frame, feeling their heart pound while their feet refuse to move. Margaret is 78. She was diagnosed with Parkinson 7 years ago. Her tremor was the first thing she noticed, but it was never the thing that scared her most. What scared her was the day she froze in the entrance of a grocery store. The automatic doors opened, she stepped forward, and then her feet stopped. People walked around her. Someone asked if she was okay. She smiled and said yes, but inside she felt like her body had betrayed her in public. She made it home that day without falling, but she stopped going to that store. Then she stopped going to the pharmacy alone. Then she stopped walking to the mailbox without her husband next to her. Not because her legs were too weak, not because her tremor was too strong, because she was afraid her feet would freeze again, and this time, no one would be close enough to catch her. Margaret is not real, but her story is something I hear over and over again from people living with Parkinson. Freezing of gait does not just take away steps. It takes away confidence. It takes away independence. It takes away the ordinary freedom of walking through your own home without fear. So why does this happen? Let me explain it in a way that makes sense without getting too technical. When you walk, your brain is doing something incredibly complex. It is planning each step, adjusting your balance, reading the space around you, timing your muscles, and making tiny corrections with every single stride. Most of this happens automatically. You do not think about walking. Your brain handles it in the background, the same way it handles breathing. But in Parkinson, the part of the brain that manages these automatic movements starts losing dopamine. And when dopamine drops below a certain level, that automatic system begins to break down. Your brain can still plan the step. It knows where you want to go, but the signal between planning and executing gets interrupted. Think of it like pressing the gas pedal in a car, but the engine stalls for a moment before the wheels turn. Your intention is there. Your legs are strong enough. But the connection between your brain and your feet hits a gap. And that gap is what you feel as a freeze. Your body wants to move, your mind wants to move, but your feet stay stuck to the floor, and the harder you try to push through it, the worse it can get because forcing movement through a freeze can throw off your balance entirely and lead to a fall. Now here is where it gets important. Freezing of gait does not happen randomly. It has triggers. And if you learn what triggers your freezes, you have a much better chance of preparing for them, working around them, or reducing how often they happen. The most common trigger is doorways. This is not a coincidence. When you walk through a doorway, your brain has to process a change in space. The walls narrow. The visual environment shifts. Your brain has to recalculate your stride, your path, and your balance all at once. For someone with Parkinson, that recalculation can overload the system, and the result is a freeze right at the threshold. You were walking fine 2 steps ago, but the moment the doorway appeared, your feet stopped. The second common trigger is turning, especially tight turns. When you turn, your body has to coordinate both legs doing different things at the same time. One leg pivots while the other adjusts. In Parkinson, that coordination can break down and your feet may freeze mid-turn. This is one of the most dangerous moments for falls because your upper body is already rotating while your feet are stuck in place, and that mismatch is what sends people to the ground. The third trigger is starting to walk after standing still. This is sometimes called start hesitation. You're sitting in a chair, you stand up, and when you try to take the first step, nothing happens. Your feet feel glued to the floor. You may shuffle in place. You may rock side to side, trying to build momentum. And sometimes, when the step finally comes, it comes too fast and too short, and you stumble forward before you can steady yourself. The fourth trigger is stressful or unfamiliar environments. A crowded room, a new building, a store you have not visited before, a parking lot with uneven pavement, any situation where your brain has to process more visual and spatial information than usual can increase the chance of a freeze. This is why many people freeze in public, but not at home, or freeze in one room of their house, but not another. The brain is overwhelmed by the demand and the automatic walking system shuts down. And the fifth trigger is one that many people never connect to their freezing episodes. The timing of your medication. Freezing of gait often gets worse during off periods when your Parkinson medication is wearing off or has not yet kicked in. If you notice that your freezes happen more often at certain times of day, especially in the morning before your first dose or late in the afternoon between doses, that pattern is something your neurologist absolutely needs to know about, because it may point to an adjustment that could help. Before we go on, I want to hear from you. When do your feet freeze the most? Is it in a doorway? Is it when you try to stand up and start walking? Is it in the kitchen? Is it in public? Is it at a specific time of day? Write one short sentence in the comments. Your experience may help someone else watching tonight feel less alone in this. Now let me talk about why freezing of gait is so dangerous, because many people underestimate this. A freeze by itself does not hurt you. Standing still for a few seconds is not the problem. The problem is what happens around the freeze. When your feet freeze, your upper body often keeps moving forward. Your momentum carries your torso and head ahead of your base, but your feet are locked. This is the moment when people fall. And when someone with Parkinson falls forward, they often cannot get their hands up fast enough to protect their face or their head. The result can be a broken wrist, a hip fracture, a head injury, or a fall that leads to hospitalization and a long, difficult recovery that takes far more from you than the fall itself. Research suggests that people with Parkinson who experience freezing of gait are significantly more likely to have serious falls than those who do not freeze. And falls in Parkinson are not just physical events, they change behavior. After one bad fall, many people start avoiding movement altogether. They stop walking around the house. They stop going outside. They stop doing the exercises and activities that keep their muscles strong and their confidence alive. And that avoidance, that fear-driven stillness, can accelerate decline faster than the disease itself. This is why freezing of gait is not just another symptom on a list. It is a turning point. And catching it early, understanding it clearly, and working with the right professionals can make a real and meaningful difference in how the next few years unfold. If this is helping you understand what your body is doing, subscribe to Beyond Parkinson. We make videos for people living with these exact daily struggles in plain language without fear or confusion. Now let us keep going because the next part is the one that may help you the most. So what can you actually do about freezing of gait? Let me walk you through several strategies that have helped many people. None of these are cures. None of them will make freezing disappear forever, but they are tools that can reduce the frequency, reduce the danger, and give you back some of the control that freezing takes away. And the best part is that most of these can be discussed with your physical therapist or neurologist at your very next visit. The first strategy is visual cues. This one sounds almost too simple, but it can work remarkably well for many people. When your automatic walking system is struggling, your brain can sometimes use a different pathway, one that involves conscious, deliberate stepping instead of automatic movement. and visual cues help activate that pathway. A line on the floor, a piece of colored tape across a doorway threshold, or even a laser pointer that projects a bright line in front of your foot can give your brain something specific to step toward. Instead of telling your foot to walk, which depends on the automatic system, you are telling your foot to step over that line, which uses a more deliberate and conscious part of your brain. And for many people, that small shift is enough to break through the freeze. You can place tape strips on the floor in the areas where you freeze the most: doorways, hallways, the entrance to your bathroom, the space between your bed, and the closet. Some people use canes that project a laser line on the floor ahead of them. These are not complicated medical devices. They are simple tools you can find online and discuss with your physical therapist to see if they match your specific pattern of freezing. The second strategy is auditory cueing, specifically rhythmic cueing. When you walk to a steady beat, you activate a different part of your brain than the one that manages automatic walking. This is why some people with Parkinson who freeze during normal walking can walk much more smoothly when music with a strong rhythm is playing. The beat gives their brain a timing signal that bypasses the broken automatic system. You can try this with a simple metronome app on your phone or a small clip on metronome device. Set it to a comfortable pace, not too fast, not too slow, and walk to the beat. You can also try counting out loud. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. The act of counting aloud gives your brain a conscious timing structure that can help your feet keep moving through spaces that normally trigger a freeze. Some people even hum a familiar march or song with a strong beat. It may feel strange at first, but for many people, it makes a noticeable difference. The third strategy is learning how to handle turns safely. Many freezes and falls happen during turns because people try to pivot quickly in place. The feet stop, the body keeps spinning, and down you go. Instead of sharp turns, physical therapists who work with Parkinson patients often teach a technique where you walk in a wide arc rather than pivoting. Or they teach you to stop completely, stand still for a moment, shift your weight deliberately onto both feet, and then start walking in the new direction rather than trying to turn while you're still moving. This takes practice, and it is best learned with a therapist who understands Parkinson gait patterns, but it can dramatically reduce the number of freezes and falls that happen during turns in your home, in hallways, and in public spaces. The fourth strategy is one that many people overlook, and it may be the most important of all. Talk to your neurologist about the timing of your freezes and the timing of your medication. If your freezes happen mostly during off periods, when your medication has worn off and your next dose has not kicked in yet, there may be an adjustment in your medication schedule that can help reduce those windows. I am not talking about changing your dose on your own. Please do not do that. I am talking about keeping a simple written log of when your freezes happen, what time you took your last dose, what you ate before or after your medication, and bringing that information to your next appointment. Your neurologist cannot fix a problem they do not know the full shape of. And many people never mention freezing in their appointments because they think it is just something they have to live with. That is not always true. Your doctor may have options you have not explored yet. There's one more thing I want to mention, and it does not get talked about nearly enough: the emotional weight of freezing. When your feet freeze in the middle of a store and strangers stare at you, it is humiliating. When your feet freeze at home and your spouse has to come hold your arm, it can feel like you're losing your independence in the most personal way possible. When you fall because of a freeze and end up in the emergency room, the fear that follows you home can be harder to heal than the bruise. I want you to know that freezing of gait is not your fault. It is not because you are not trying hard enough. It is not because you are weak. It is not because you are giving up. It is a symptom of a disease that attacks the very system your brain uses to coordinate movement. The wiring is disrupted, the signal gets stuck, and your feet pay the price. But the fact that you are still standing, still walking, still trying to cross that room, still watching videos like this one to learn what you can do about it, that is a kind of courage that most people will never fully understand. Let me come back to Margaret for a moment. After that day in the grocery store, Margaret stopped going out alone. She was embarrassed. She was scared. And for a few months, her world got smaller and smaller. But then her daughter found a physical therapist who had experience working with Parkinson gait. The therapist came to Margaret's home and watched how she walked. She noticed that Margaret froze almost every time she reached the doorway between the living room and the kitchen. The therapist placed 2 strips of bright blue tape on the floor, one on each side of the threshold. She taught Margaret to look down at the tape, lift her foot deliberately, and step over the line instead of trying to walk through the doorway the way she always had. It felt strange at first. Margaret said she felt silly looking down at a piece of tape. But it worked. Not perfectly every time, but often enough that Margaret started walking to the kitchen on her own again without calling for her husband. A few weeks later, she walked to the mailbox. A month after that, she went back to the grocery store with her daughter nearby, but not holding her arm. She still froze sometimes. There were still hard days, but she had a plan for those hard days. She knew what to do when her feet stopped, and having that plan gave her something that Parkinson had been slowly, quietly taking away from her for years. The feeling that she could still trust her own body, even when it did not cooperate perfectly, even on the difficult mornings, even on the days when the freeze lasted a few seconds longer than she expected. This information is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice from your own doctor or care team. Every person with Parkinson is different, and what works for one person may not work for another. Any new strategy, whether it involves visual cues, a change in how you approach turns, a walking rhythm, or a conversation about your medication timing, should be discussed with the professionals who know your full medical history. What I share here is meant to help you recognize what your body may be telling you and give you better questions to bring to your next appointment, not to replace the personalized care you deserve. Parkinson can make your body feel like a stranger living inside your own skin. One moment you are walking across the room without thinking about it. The next moment, your feet are frozen to the floor and the world keeps moving around you. But understanding why this happens does not make you weaker. It makes you smarter. It gives you words for what you are feeling. It gives your family a way to help you without guessing. It gives your therapist a clearer picture of your daily life. It gives your doctor the details they need to adjust your care with precision. And sometimes it gives you one simple tool, a line on the floor, a rhythm in your ear, a wider turn, a moment of stillness before the next step that makes tomorrow feel a little less frightening than today. If this video helped you understand your body a little better, subscribe to Beyond Parkinson and turn on the bell. You're not alone in this. Small changes, better questions, and the right support can make the next step feel less frightening. And if someone you love is living with Parkinson, send them this video tonight. It may be the thing that starts a conversation they have been too afraid to have on their own. Thank you for being here. I will see you in the next one.